Hello, welcome back. I am so excited about today's video. I'm excited about all the videos I post, but that's just me. Today's interview was initially 42 minutes long. I got it down to less than 16 minutes and it is jam-packed with information. You are going to learn so much, I promise you. I first met Alison on Instagram. She had this post about 5 cancer-causing foods and I was like, what? Certain foods can cause cancer? Are you kidding me? Maybe I sound ignorant. I didn't know. So since that time, I began to follow her and her journey, learning about plant-based foods that can help fight cancer, and I was sold. What wouldn't I try to help fight cancer even more? Down below, you're gonna find a link to her website where there's recipes on there. I'm gonna include her Instagram handle. She even has a free meal plan. Why not check her out? This girl is so smart. You're gonna meet her in the first 2 minutes of the video. I want you to hear her why she's a registered dietitian in oncology, and then we're gonna jump right into her top 5 cancer-fighting foods. All right, let's go. Okay, so here I have Alison Tierney with Wholesome LLC, and I am so excited to have her here because she's the one that got me hip to plant-based eating. And I thought, what better person than a registered dietitian in oncology to talk about what foods can help fight cancer.
Well, first off, thanks so much for having me, Mon. I feel so honored to be part of this and be connected virtually. And this is just another way to connect. So I'm really happy to be doing that.
What got you interested in being a registered dietitian?
During our freshman year of college, our mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. My senior year of college, my grandfather was diagnosed with liver cancer.
Wow.
And then prior to that, my other grandmother had been a breast cancer survivor. And then also my godmother is also a breast cancer survivor. I kept wondering, how could nutrition play a role to maybe prevent, help them during the course of treatment, and then of course help them after treatment to help prevent recurrence.
So this is what you do full-time, is Wholesome?
Yes, it is my full-time gig now. We do promote a plant-based lifestyle, but it doesn't mean that you have to be exclusively plant-based either to work with me or to take advantage of the information and materials that we have, because our motto in the end is truly just eat more plants. We do know overall that eating a plant-based diet focused on whole plant-based foods has been shown to reduce the risk of developing cancer and its recurrence as well.
What I've learned from you is that bring education and then people can make their own decision.
And that's how I always present the information, or try and imply to present that information, is that you have to do what's right for you and your family. But I do think that you deserve to know what the research is available to help you make decisions of what's best for your family and yourself.
And what's amazing is that so much of what you give us, it's absolutely free. You are board certified. I don't even know if you mentioned that yet. You're board certified.
Yep, I am.
You have your master's degree in this and you love it. I think that's the most important thing. You love it. Okay. What we're all waiting for, your 5 favorite cancer fighting foods.
I were to pick my top 5, because there's so many different cancer fighting foods that are available. But the first one that I would say is broccoli or cruciferous vegetables.
I never heard cruciferous before I went plant-based.
Fantastic. So cruciferous essentially means that the leaves grow in a cross formation. So think about Brussels sprouts, how the leaves cross over each other. That's a cruciferous vegetable. So broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, those are all cruciferous vegetables. And the reason that I particularly point out these cruciferous vegetables is because they contain products called glucosinolates. Glucosinolates are these phytonutrients or cancer-fighting plant-based nutrients that are found in the product. And then actually it goes through a enzymatic reaction that turns it into sulforaphane. And this nutrient is relatively exclusive to cruciferous vegetables, and that sulforaphane is very cancer fighting. So that's why I put it at the top of the list.
And this is why I love you so much, because most of us watching this did not follow any of that. But I trust you that you know exactly what you're saying. And I believe you. The frozen ones we get at the store, I forget the name brands, but you can just pop in the microwave. Same thing. At least you're getting some vegetables in.
Yeah, and frozen can be better than fresh sometimes because They're frozen at the peak of right when they pick it, they freeze it, and that saves the nutrients. And especially when they're traveling long distances, you actually preserve those nutrients, so they still are just as good, if not sometimes better than fresh.
Okay. So one down. What's the next one?
Yeah. So my next one kind of goes in line with this, but it's dark leafy green vegetables. The spinach, kale, mustard greens, beet greens, even romaine lettuce is considered a dark leafy green vegetable. Dark leafy green vegetables are truly the healthiest foods on the planet. And the reason for that is because they contain so many nutrients in such a tiny little amount that eating them gives us so many great cancer fighting potentials. And again, this all comes from, which you'll see as a theme through all of the foods that I'm going to talk about, are these phytonutrients, which are plant-based nutrients that are also been shown to be disease-fighting nutrients and cancer-fighting. If you're looking for one where you're going to get the most bang for your buck for cancer-fighting nutrients, dark leafy green vegetables are going to be absolutely at the top of the list. Right. And as much as like salads can be great ways to get in these dark leafy green veggies, it doesn't have to be a salad. One of my dietitians that I work with, her motto is, can I add greens to that? And it's really just this idea of whatever you're making, can you add greens to it? Can you layer some sort of rice pilaf on a bed of greens? Can you add spinach to your soup and let it, wilt down a little bit? Can you add spinach or kale to your smoothie? There's lots of unique ways in order to just add a little bit here and there, and that can make a big difference.
I love that. I love that idea. Just anything you try or anything you see if you can add a little bit of greens to that. Perfect. I love it.
Absolutely.
Okay, number 3.
So number 3 that I like to promote is actually ground flaxseed. And this is even more important for breast cancer patients and those specifically that are estrogen positive. There's more benefits that we know of from the estrogen positive, but it's still beneficial for triple negative breast cancers as well.
So before you go on, I know there's people hear flax seeds. I had someone reach out to me and said, oh, are you estrogen positive? Flax seeds aren't good for you. This is what my oncologist said. Yeah. What kind of response do you give to women who say my oncologist said no flax seeds, no soy, things like that?
What individuals are worried about is that long ago, because flaxseed and soy and some other products contain what are called phytoestrogens, so just like those phytonutrients, they're plant estrogens. The thought was, well, why would we eat something that has estrogens in it especially if there's an estrogen positive cancer here? The thing to know is that phytoestrogens are not the same as human estrogen. That's a very important distinction. Chemical structure wise, they do look pretty similar, but they're not the same. So the way that I like to describe it is, imagine you have a lock and a key, right? Just like on our doors, only the right key fits in that lock to your front door, for example. However, there are times when a key fits into that lock, but it doesn't open the lock. Have you ever experienced that, Mon?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, why doesn't this key work, right?
It looks like it would. It looks like it fits in there, like it's going to fit, but it doesn't. So.
Exactly. So when we have different hormones in our body, so we have what's called a receptor and the hormone. The receptor is like the lock and the hormone is like the key. That hormone only works in the right lock or the right receptor. So for example, like testosterone, another type of hormone, is not going to work in the estrogen receptor. Mm-hmm. But what phytoestrogens do is they sit in that lock just as the estrogen would, but it doesn't open the lock. And what ends up happening is that because it's sitting in that lock, the human estrogen can't be sitting in that lock as well. So it actually reduces the estrogen from that standpoint. Now, it does get a little bit more nit and gritty in terms of there's different types of receptors, alpha and beta and all that kind of stuff. But overall, that's the idea of why that works. And thousands of research studies later have shown us that soy and flaxseed, for example, these phytoestrogen containing foods actually reduce the risk of development of breast cancer and recurrence of breast cancer in breast cancer patients. So that's a very important distinction. And I would say that, yes, as much as you want to trust your oncologist, that's very old school thinking. Reason why the flax seeds are so beneficial too is because they do have those phytoestrogens and particularly have something called lignans. Lignans are these very powerful phytonutrients again, and there are 100 times more lignans in ground flaxseed than any other food. So it's a really powerful source of these phytonutrients that can help protect against cancer.
So number 4.
Number 4 is beans and legumes. And some people, if you're not sure what a legume is considered anything that's like beans or dried peas, for example. So black beans, kidney beans, lentils, navy beans, list goes on and on. I think other than fruits and vegetables, I think this is one of the most under-consumed foods that has very high potential and power. But what I find the most is that people, it's not that they don't like them, it's that they don't know how to cook them. But hopefully you can find a lot of recipes on our website or other plant-based areas to incorporate a lot of beans, because that is something that you'll find in a lot of our recipes is beans and legumes, because they contain really great plant-based protein. They also contain fiber, which is super important. Fiber is really important in helping to decrease inflammation, which is also very important to a cancer patient.
I'm sure this is the number one question about protein, like where do you get your protein? But I've learned that people should be concerned of where they're getting their fiber, because a lot of people aren't getting what they should be getting in just a normal diet.
That's very true. Yep. Research shows that only 3% of Americans consume adequate amounts of fiber. Or when we talk about the opposite side of the problem, where people talk about protein, only 3% of Americans are deficient in protein. So we don't have a protein deficiency, we have a fiber deficiency in the US.
And what can fiber help with?
Fiber, most people think of fiber as just having healthy bowel movements, which is so important and so incredibly true. However, fiber can play a role in so many different things. And for example, I'll come back even to like the estrogen positive, hormonally positive breast cancers. So when we have fiber, what happens is our liver actually, it gets rid of toxins, medications that might be metabolized in the liver, and excess hormones. They all get filtered through the liver, go into the bile duct and into our GI tract. And what happens was when you're in that GI tract, the fiber picks up those extra hormones, waste products, picks them up and takes them out through stool. But if you don't have fiber, you're not having something that's going to be efficiently picking up those waste products, for example, and excreting them. So it's a great way to actually naturally reduce high levels of hormones that we don't necessarily want, because we want to have the right number of hormones or the right amount of hormones. We don't want too much. We don't want too little, and fiber can help us naturally regulate those hormones. So that's just one piece of it. There's so much more to it too.
Okay, number 5.
All right, number 5 would be berries. Berries are found to be the most beneficial in cancer-fighting properties. So any kind of berries, strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, you name it, many of them, because they have such bright, deep colors. Darker the pigments, the more pigments there are, the deeper the color. You essentially can know that there are more phytonutrients within that product. Berries are such an easy way to get some really great cancer-fighting benefits. You know, I live in Wisconsin, and so we don't have berries that are just growing in our yards year round, and they get expensive in the wintertime and so forth. So, you know, it's March now when we're recording this, and we still rely heavily on frozen berries to make smoothies and so forth. But once summertime comes, we're all about the fresh, but it doesn't really matter whether it's fresh or frozen again. You can get some of these daily. That would be awesome.
Even children would love this cancer-fighting food.
It's nature's candy.
Yes, I love that.
Although I'm a dietitian and I love talking about food, I honor and recognize that nutrition is not the only piece of the puzzle. Research indicates that 30% of cancer deaths are actually attributed to poor diet.
Wow.
That's a lot. You know, 5% genetic, 30% based on what we put in our mouth. A lot of the other percentage is definitely physical inactivity, weight. So there's a lot of different things that we can do in our everyday life that can help reduce our risk of cancer. But what happens is cancer development is really damage to our DNA. Things damage that all the time. Poor nutrition, sunlight, exposure to environmental toxins. And what may happen in most individuals is probably an accumulation of all of these things that are damaging the system. Personally, not this would apply to everybody, but if I am one day diagnosed with cancer, I feel as though what I can control in my lifestyle, I can say, I did what I could.
Exactly.
And that's the approach that I take to it. I know that there's no guarantee that I'll never develop cancer just by the diet and lifestyle I follow. That's great peace of mind.
You're doing whatever you can now to prevent cancer as much as possible. Give us your one thing that you would want the world to know about plant-based eating.
If I had to pick one thing about plant-based eating that I would tell people is that don't necessarily seek perfection. One of my favorite quotes is, don't let perfection be the enemy of progress. I don't have a perfect diet. I don't know anybody that does have a perfect diet. But if we continue to work on the progress that we make in our own healthy lifestyle rather than just perfection, we're going to get a whole lot farther. And it doesn't have to be perfect to make a very positive impact in your life.
You know, I have to ask you, Alison, you have to tell me some vegetables that you absolutely hate that you will never eat because you just can't stand them. Which ones?
Eggplant and asparagus.
Okay. I love those two.
I can probably reassure you that no recipe on Wholesome's page will ever have eggplant. But I always encourage people to try new foods and retry. And I encourage myself to do the same thing. So if my husband has an eggplant dish or something like that, I'll try it. And you never know.
Well, thank you so much for your time and sharing your gift with us and the world.
I just want to encourage people to eat more plants.
What a great note to end on. Thank you so much, Alison. I appreciate you again for coming together and just talking about this so we can help educate other people.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Man. I really appreciate it. And thanks for doing what you do and helping other people get through a journey that you've been through and continue to go through. And that means a lot for other cancer survivors to have somebody else to get that information from and that support, because I know that it means a lot when you get it from somebody who has gone through that experience as well.
Yep, that's our goal, is just to help people, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much, Alison.
Yeah, thanks, Man.